Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk Savannah. I'm here with Kendra Clark, who is running for the House of Representatives. Is it District 165?
Yeah, it's a State House of Representatives, District 165. So this is for who's going to make the laws for Georgia, not necessarily for the federal government. People get it confused sometimes.
I am very confused, and I'm glad you could come on the show and help me and our listeners understand how this election works and how it's going to benefit us in the city. So before we get into it, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself and what you do in Savannah, and maybe go into how you got into this.
Perfect. Yeah, so my name is Kendra Clark. I moved to Savannah 15 years ago. Actually, May 2nd was my Savannah anniversary, officially 15 years. I just moved here after college because I love the town. And since then, my background is in social work. So as a social worker, I've worked with foster kids, survivors of sexual assault, as well as individuals on parole and probation who are returning to our communities from the prison systems, helping them get resources. And I left kind of that field and now work as a paralegal. I do probate law, which is probate is the kind of law you go through when you have a family member who dies, you need someone to be over their estate. So it's a very busy, because it's one of the few courts that everyone ends up going through at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
But I love Savannah, and really it was my work with individuals in the criminal justice system that made me first consider running for office. So in 2019, I left that job, didn't even have another job lined up because there was just so many ethical concessions I was having to make. I was like, I can't do this anymore. But part of what I realized is we have this system that does a lot more harm than it does good. And the things that need to change have to be changed at the state level.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I give you a lot of credit for stepping up and wanting to make a difference, because it's very intimidating. This seems like a very tumultuous system to even be navigating. As a person on the outside, just with a voter power, I feel very lost.
Yeah.
So what has your process been like getting established with this? I've been seeing a lot of your videos on TikTok and your self-promotion. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how it's been? Yeah.
So running for office, I'm someone, I love research. So I'm going to look into everything before I do something. I did the She Should Run program. I also graduated from the Georgia Win Leadership Academy last year. So they train specifically Democratic women to run for office in Georgia. I also did a training with the Working Families Party, but I was I just need to know all the different things I need to know about, how do you run for office? How does this even start?
How do you run for office, girl?
And the first thing I always tell people, because sometimes people just want to run for a seat. And I always tell people, because people are don't you want to run for city council or county commission? I was no, I'm specifically interested in the state law. I'm not trying to be a career politician. I'm interested in systemic issues. And the way you fix that is by fixing the laws.
Yes.
And there's so much we can do at the state level without having to wait and rely on the chaos of what is the federal government.
Agreed.
And so I was I'm not interested in running for anything else. Specifically this seat. The first step was just, the first step was talking to my boss.
Right.
Because for people who don't know, we have a part-time legislature. So what that means is, they only make $21,000 a year, but they only are in session 40 days out of the year. And it starts in January and runs through the beginning of April. And so that means that you kind of have to be up in Atlanta for 3 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And so my first step was to go to my boss and be hey, let's go have some coffee. And she's oh no. But it ended up working out really well. We talked, I was listen, this is what I want to do. This is my plan. She's I'm not sure how it's going to work, but we're going to try. And so she's been super supportive. I love her so much. But the first step is talk to your boss, especially because some companies have in their rules that you can't run for office.
Right.
And so I have seen people jump in and then they find that, then all of a sudden their company's oh, you have to go on a leave of absence because this is against our company regulations. So read your company handbook first.
Yes, very
and
smart
talk to your
advice.
boss. That's definitely the first step. And then you have to do a bunch of other stuff. You have to set up a bank account and you have to create an LLC for the campaign. And, if you are smart, you get a really good campaign manager, which I have one of the best. I think she's amazing.
Who's your campaign manager?
My campaign manager is Angel Ratcliffe.
Okay.
She previously ran the campaign for Patty Hewitt, who ran for Buddy Carter's seat a couple years ago.
Yes.
But Angel's amazing. And then you just start, building your brand, and people do that different ways. I like doing creative stuff. I'm not great at it, but I created my own logo and all the color schemes and everything, just because it's like a fun thing to do.
Yeah, and it's an extension of you.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I wanted to look like me, not someone else. And I did have someone who offered to make me a website for free because I cannot make websites. It makes me want to throw my computer against the wall.
Yes. Yeah.
But then once you do that, then it's just really getting out there and getting in the community, which is something I already do a lot of. Maybe some of the places I go is different, but I'm someone who's always been very civically engaged and doing volunteering. For 4 years, I ran a women's networking meetup called She Networks.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yes.
We had over 400 members at one point. Actually, one of the last ones we had before I shut it down, security actually got upset because we were exceeding capacity. They're like, why didn't you give us a heads up this many people were coming? I'm like, I didn't know.
How are you supposed to know? That's awesome.
I'm like, people in Savannah don't RSVP.
That's true. That's true. We don't know until the day of that we're going.
Like usually it's like whoever shows up is there. And then after Hurricane Helene, I founded Hostess City Mutual Aid to help people find resources, especially when there's a natural disaster of like, rather than having to follow like 50 different pages, you just go to one page to find it all together. So like I've been doing the work, but now, I'm going to neighborhood association meetings. I'm going to some of the different political events. And then, my favorite part, which we didn't really start until March, is canvassing, like actually just going door to door, knocking on people's doors and talking to them about the things they care about. I love that because how do you even know what the issues are if you aren't talking to people?
Yes. And I'm curious, like if you want to name a few that you found through talking to people.
The biggest thing is obviously affordability.
Right.
People are struggling to afford to live for housing, healthcare, gas, groceries, childcare. And families that have lived in neighborhoods for decades, if not generations, are being forced out because they can't afford to stay there.
Yes.
And this is something we can definitely deal with at the state level. One of my big platform items is preventing private equity firms from buying up single family homes.
Yes.
I think homes should belong to families and not corporations that never die.
I agree. And I think that private equity certainly has its place in the world, but I think Savannah is kind of like a gem. I kind of tell people it's like the Shire, like Mordor's like DC and, the rest of the world. And we're here in our little box. So like, we don't need all that amazing private equity help. Thank you so much.
No. Well, and we've already seen the impacts of it in Atlanta. I think it's almost 40% of single-family homes in Atlanta are now owned by private equity firms.
Yes.
And dealing in the probate world where families are selling homes from their estates, we're seeing it on our end happening here in town as well. So it's not just an Atlanta problem. It has made its way to the coast.
Yes, to the Shire. Yes. So affordability was one. Are there any others you want to highlight just through your canvassing?
With healthcare, I'm like, at a minimum, we need to expand Medicare. I would also like to see, like, are there ways to expand programs that we have in our public health departments? Like, is there additional services we could provide to people? Of course, overturning the heartbeat bill, because what we've seen is that has led to OBGYNs leaving the state.
Yes.
It's led to, we had the young lady in Atlanta who they literally kept alive for well over a month just so she could have her baby, and then pass that medical bill on to her parents, which is like just horrifying.
Yeah. And a lifetime of a child who's going to have health issues.
But and this is important because we live in a state with one of the highest maternal mortality rates, specifically for Black women. When you look at the rate at which Black women die during childbirth, it's only slightly lower than someone in the military being sent off to war.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's how bad it is. And that's because we aren't providing people with prenatal care because they don't have insurance. Our OBGYNs are leaving because of this law, and it makes it really hard for them to make the decisions they need to. Because I always tell people, I think your healthcare decisions should be made between your family, your faith, and your physician.
Agreed.
And not a bunch of white men up in Atlanta.
Agreed. Who don't know how that hardware works.
No,
most
they
of the time.
do
So sorry, guys. You should let women just have this one.
But, another thing that comes up a lot is, raising the minimum wage, because one, things are expensive, but also part of the issue is we have people who are making very low wages while also having very few worker protections.
Yes.
Like, we're a right to work state, which means they can fire you for no reason. We have very weak workers' compensation laws.
We do. I also think there's a majority of people whose careers are in like hospitality and service industry. And not to say bartenders need a union, but it almost is becoming to the point where like, they're being paid $2 an hour, but having to like live off of their tips in a 1099 way. I don't know. It's just all very backwards. And I think we need something that's more tailored to that type of industry here because it's like the backbone of a lot of our tourism.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually had an event on this past Monday. It was a service industry listening session that was specifically targeting service industry workers because we are a tourist city, and our service industry workers, so the cooks, the bartenders, the baristas, the house cleaner, or the hotel cleaners, the people who do all those things, they keep the city running.
Yes.
Like we would be nowhere without them.
We wouldn't have fun without them.
I know a few years ago, there was a local coffee shop, Foxy Loxy, where the union workers unionized and went on strike and got fired. And they have since won their lawsuit because the firing was illegal. And we helped support them during that because, workers are, particularly our service industry workers, are the backbone of the city. And they should be paid better than they are, especially when we have a lot of money in this town.
Yes.
There's no reason people shouldn't get paid well.
I agree. And I think that their hard work should definitely be rewarded because they're who we see every weekend. They're who we see at the cocktail parties and the fundraisers, all that. So,
and I've done that job. I've been a barista, I've bartended, I've waited tables. So people who are like, oh, they shouldn't get paid that much. I'm like, you've never done that job.
But see, this is a reason why I really like you and your campaign. And as I'm discovering more about you, I think that is what the systems and the lawmakers need is to, like, right now, I think a lot of people in the driver's seat are out of touch with what real life and reality is and don't know what it's like to struggle. Yeah. Meanwhile, all of us are struggling.
Oh, yeah.
So what else have you found out canvassing?
Of course, one is always infrastructure. So people are upset about the roads and not being speed bumps. Now, some of that is city stuff. But, who has to fix the roads is really complicated because some of the roads are city and some of them are county and some of them are state and some of them are federal and some of them are mixed. And so you have to work together.
Yes.
And that's why, so one, we need to have state representatives who are working closely with our county commission, with our city council. So that way we're tackling this from working together rather than in these silos. And then, the other thing with infrastructure is also, I live over by Daffin Park. And, anytime it rains, even kind of heavy, Waters and Victory both right there just flood. Like I just have to stay in my house until it passes. Another thing we can deal with at the state level, because currently the way we're dealing with things is we fix the problem here, but then it just pushes the problem over here. And then we fix it here and it moves it. And so we're just playing whack-a-mole. And so one of the things we could do is actually create a regional water authority, but that would have to be created by the state. And basically have, Chatham County, Savannah, Pooler, Effingham, Bryan County, Bullitt County, like all of these counties that are right here together, working together to fix this system. So rather than playing whack-a-mole, we're looking at everything from a systemic lens. We're looking at the whole system, not just this one little part. But it also works because maybe it's a $100 million project and one municipality can't afford to do it. But if everyone chips in a little bit, then we can get something that is actually better than what we've been doing. Yes.
I think a theme I'm finding about just talking to you is you seem like a connector or like the concept of community and unity runs deep here, I can tell.
Absolutely. Like, we'll always tell people, I'm like, even if you elect me, like, I can't do this alone. One, it takes other legislators who are willing to work with me. Though I always tell people, like, I'm originally from Alabama, so my family is conservative, but we talk politics all the time because when you talk to people and like not in a why don't you think like I do kind of way, what you find out is most of us have more in common than we have different. We just have some different ideas about how to make things happen.
Definitely.
Now, there are some people who just don't care, and you have to figure out who you can talk to and who you can't. But I think like having that connection with my family and that experience talking about these issues with people who don't always align with me, I think that's a skill I can take up to the legislature because we do have a Republican-led both House and Senate currently.
Yes.
That could change in November. We'll see. But currently, they lead everything. So they kind of, being in the minority party, you are a little limited on what you can do. So you have to find some creative solutions. You have to find people that are willing to work with you.
Yeah, at least you know what you're up against going into this.
But even outside of other legislators, like there are so many things us as community members can do. Like there's some really great organizations outside of even nonprofits. It's just like people getting together. Like the Savannah Urbanist Society just started, and they are literally just like finding wood and building benches for bus stops.
Oh, wow.
On their own. They're not waiting for permission. They're just like, it's insane that you don't have somewhere to sit while you're waiting on the bus.
Definitely.
And so we're just going to do it. And so we as community members also have so much more power than we realize and what we can do.
Yes. So something else I want to talk about, I found you on TikTok, and I think that your videos are fabulous. But I'd love to just kind of, for the audience who may not be familiar with how you've been campaigning, some things that like set you apart. Off camera, we talked about like PAC support, and you're somebody who's kind of leading with the concept of like your vote can't be bought in some way. So I'd love just to kind of hear about the refreshing things that you're bringing and promoting yourself.
So one, like I said, I believe in like grassroots, which is why like we're not paying canvassers. I'm literally like going out there myself. I have a team of volunteers who are all people who just are supportive and go out there with me. But like if I'm not willing to show up, then how can I expect you to show up for me?
Definitely.
So one, I'm doing the work myself. But two, when it comes to money, I made a pledge from the beginning of this campaign to not take any money from any corporate PACs, from real estate developers, or from SCAD, because, like I said, we have seen so much where maybe it doesn't even have to do with money, but even the appearance that like I am making decisions because someone's giving me money. Like
right.
I don't want you to even have a doubt.
Well, you don't want people to think who's influencing you, of course.
Because there was I'm trying to remember who it was. Someone had said like, however you run your campaign is how you will eventually govern. So if you are catering to the power players, if you're catering to the big donors and the corporations, those are the people that you are going to cater to when you're in office as well.
Well, they're going to be in your ear the whole time as well. So I think this is very refreshing to just hear that you want to, take this the grassroots way.
Yeah. I have two opponents in this race, and everyone running is a Democrat, so there's no Republican running. So whoever wins the primary is it.
Right.
Which is rare. You don't see that very often. But, one of my opponents, he's got like TV ads. He sent out like 3 mailers. He even sent one to someone I know in Chicago. I'm like, I don't know why she's getting mail for a state House of Representatives seat when she lives in Chicago, but whatever.
Yep. Okay.
But all of these mailers and ads are being put out by this PAC. And like, they're really sneaky about the way they do things. Because when you go to their website, they're like, we're fighting for affordability and all this stuff. But you always want to follow the money. So like, where is this PAC getting their money from?
Yeah. So I did see a TikTok that goes over this if you want to talk in detail.
Yeah. So so we have kind of like 2 different things that you can check. So Georgia has their own filing system for state candidates, where you can see we have to do quarterly reports of like, where's our money coming from? How are we spending it? I just completed mine this weekend because the quarter ended on April 30th. And then we also have the federal system that the Federal Elections Commission that regulates federal candidates, but also any political action committees or PACs. And so that's what I did. When I saw this PAC, I was like, let's go see who these people are.
Yeah.
And when you look at their contributors, all of their contributors are from another PAC called Win for America. I think I compared it to like those little Russian dolls.
Yes, the Russian egg, or the Fabergé egg. Yeah. Yes.
Where you open one and there's another one. But when you look at when you Google this other PAC, it's called Win for America. What you find out is they are made up of sports betting companies. Mm-hmm. So Georgia, sports betting is illegal, and they've been trying to get it passed here for several sessions now. And so they are putting tens of millions of dollars into Georgia elections and Texas elections, because Texas is kind of in the same boat, for state races to get sports betting passed.
Right.
And so my opponent, they've spent $200,000 in 2 weeks for ads and mailers for him, which is I'm like, do you know what you could do for the community with $200,000?
For real.
Like, that is insane.
Or like, that's a misstep in my opinion.
It's a huge misstep.
Y'all spend your money the way you want to, but that is kind of that it could be game changing in some parts of the city.
But it's also, like I said, you have their website that's like, we're fighting for affordability, but all their money is coming from sports betting. Well, like, those are very opposite things.
Yeah.
Like,
also, you have to have extra money to be able to gamble anyways, right? So that we can't afford that right now.
Well, I'm not a gambler. Like, I went to Vegas once. Like, I did like a few of the slots, and I'm like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not.
I only gamble with my life.
Yes.
So
same. But the House always wins for a reason. And what we've seen is in states that have passed sports betting, that they have seen significant increases in bankruptcies, lower credit scores, like defaults on loans. Like, all of these things are happening in states that have legalized sports betting, and that we see it a lot more in our low-income communities.
Yeah, definitely.
And so the people who are already struggling, we're like putting this, if it passes, we're putting this carrot out there being like, hey, you could maybe get some money, but then it's really just putting them further back in the hole.
It's like the same concept as the lottery. Yeah. Like, they generate so much more money than one person winning, or, the odds are not that great. So
it is not in your favor.
But I think this is like an important point to highlight because, we are, as, voters and people consuming all of this media are told one thing, but if you take a closer look or do your own research, you find another. So I encourage all of our listeners, if you're going to vote in the upcoming election, to research your opponents, research you as well, but to just make as good of an informed decision.
And if you want to know how to research, feel free to reach out because I love this stuff. Because they intentionally make it very difficult to find.
Yes.
Because even like the Georgia, because I was actually going to do a post today or tomorrow, because if you Google like Georgia campaign finance, it doesn't take you to the right page on the first page of Google. It takes you to all these other pages. And so I'm like, even that is just making it hard for people to see like, what, because like, if you look at my filings, all of my donations are from individuals in our community, except for one. So the only business is my boss. So the firm I work for, they made a donation because they believe in me. So but outside of that, it's all just regular people.
And so how is a way we can donate to you?
Yeah. So if you go to my website, votekendraclark.com, there, you can find out more about me. We also have links to sign up to volunteer. We have 2 weeks left of the election. We're going to be canvassing almost every day, knocking doors. And this, I know it sounds scary, but I promise it's fun. And we'll probably do the weekend before the primary on May 19th. Our last one, we'll probably do like a little cookout. I'm still trying to get all the details. But on that website, you'll also find the donation link. It pops up as soon as you log in. Or you can go to votekendraclark.com/donate. But yeah, every little bit counts. Like I have one person who literally will donate like $1 every couple of months because that's their college kid. That's all they can afford. But they're like, I want to support.
Yeah.
And so they send me $1.
I definitely think this is you're a good horse to be backing in all of this.
You.
So something else I wanted to clarify, map out like what district you'd be covering.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of like the historical downtown part of Savannah.
Yeah. So my district is very weird because gerrymandering is real.
Yes.
But there is at the bottom of my website, there is like a Google map with the overlay. So you can actually zoom in, which is very helpful. Because if you just Google it, it's like a static image that's hard to read. But I always tell people the way I describe it is like you take Waters Avenue and you go down until right past Durin. And then it curves over to Skidaway and then goes down to Sandfly. Mm-hmm. On the east side, it stops right before you get into Wilmington. And then on the north side, I have all of President Street. And then downtown, all of downtown down to Liberty Street.
Yes.
And then it follows West Bay until right before Garden City.
Right. And that covers where the ports are, correct?
Yeah, that covers where the ports are. And then there are a few little like cutout areas. So like I have like Baldwin Park. I have like the area over by Perk Coffee. But then there's like 4 blocks that are like cut out oddly.
Yeah. I didn't see Forsyth Park under yours.
No, Forsyth Park is so that would be in District 160.
I know. I was looking like scratching my head being like,
I think it's 163. I know it's Ann Allen Westbrook's district, but I think she's 163.
Yeah. I was like, that's a very interesting like carve out of Savannah because it's just kind of like a part of it and not the full picture.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is, last week we saw the Supreme Court decision come down, basically gutting Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which prevented states from racially gerrymandering.
Right.
Partisan gerrymandering is still legal, but racial gerrymandering wasn't. And they kind of gutted the enforcement of that. And Kemp has said that he won't redistrict for this year, but that they're planning on getting that started for 2028. And so more than ever, like if you think these maps are insane now, just imagine what they'll be like when they're doing even more gerrymandering to try to diminish the Black vote. And so it's even more important than ever that we get people at the state who are like, that's unacceptable.
Yes.
We need to make voting fair and accessible. We need nonpartisan districts. Like any gerrymandering should be illegal.
Agreed.
But we have to have leaders who have that belief.
Yes.
So when these things do get redrawn, they are redrawn fairly and in a way that makes sense and that doesn't cut out populations.
Yes. And I think in one of your TikToks, you were highlighting that, like, was it 50% of our population in Savannah is African American?
Yeah. So we are a majority minority city. So the majority of our population in Savannah is Black. And in my district, 55% of the district is Black.
Yes.
And of the voting population, it's a little over 50%. But yeah, so They will absolutely try to put all of them in one district.
Yeah.
So they don't have any representation.
Representation seems very important.
Yes.
At this point. So I'm glad that you're actually able to like spotlight these issues and actually talk about them, because I think a lot of people just kind of dance around and just try to like win people's approval and not so much like, I don't know, I can tell you're very rooted in these issues and I like hearing you speak about them as somebody who is not as informed. You know, I'm learning a lot through this conversation. So you have 2 weeks left to campaign. What has that been like? Just, are you kind of on the go all day, every day?
Oh, yeah. I've been on the go for a while, but yeah, it's definitely ramping up because, like I said, now we're doing canvassing. We've been doing canvassing every Saturday and Sunday for a couple months now. But now, yesterday, we started doing weeknight canvassing. So from like 5:30 to 7:30, we'll be out there again tonight. But yeah, just trying to get out there and one, let people know who I am, but two, just get people to the poll because there's a lot of important things on the ballot besides just me.
Yeah, if we can talk about any. Yeah. Or I don't know what's on the ballot. I'm an ignorant honestly, citizen.
It is giant because even there's a couple things I've got to do some research on. But we have governor and lieutenant governor. We have John Ossoff Senate seat.
Yes.
We have, of course, all of our state reps and state senate. We have Buddy Carter's seat, which he decided to run for Senate. So this is the first time we've had an open seat. Yeah. So there are a lot of candidates. There's 8 people on the Democratic side and 6 people on the Republican side.
Oh, my goodness.
A lot of interest. We also have Public Service Commission. We have 2 seats. So we voted on 2 of those last year. One of them was a special election. So poor Peter Hubbard has to run again this year. But then we have a second one as well. We also have Georgia Supreme Court. And what's important about the Georgia Supreme Court, so actually, even if you don't vote for me, listen to this. So Georgia Supreme Court, we have 2 openings. And the thing with the Georgia Supreme Court that's special about having 2 openings that we're voting on is what tends to happen in the past is the judges would decide to step down or retire right before their term would end. So then the governor could just appoint someone rather than it coming to an election.
Oh, wow.
So it's very rare we actually get to vote in this. And this is the same Supreme Court who ruled for the heartbeat bill, that has voted against, voting rights. Like they are backed by, I'm trying to remember what organization has been providing a lot of their funding, but they have like a PAC because they're supposed to be nonpartisan, but let's be honest.
Seem a little partisan-y to me.
But if you're going to vote for Georgia Supreme Court, there are 2 people on the ballot that are amazing. You have Jen Jordan and then Miracle Rankin. So I think it's Jen for Justice and Look for a Miracle is like their slogans. But they're both amazing, so please vote for them. We also have Court of Appeals. We have Labor Commissioner, Insurance Commissioner,
Wow, this is a very long ballot.
And we also have school board president here in Chatham County.
Right.
There's a lot on the ballot, and you can go to the My Voter page for Georgia. And when you pull up your information, you can actually pull up a sample ballot. So that way you can kind of see what's there, know what to research beforehand.
Yes. I think that's one of the disconnects as a voter is that, like we said, we just went through a long list of people who or seats that are all up to be voted for. And I think it's hard to take the time to look into these people and to know that you're making the most informed decision. I am guilty of going to vote sometimes and I'm like, whose name do I like better? Which is bad. But at the same time, that's the situation we're all in as voters where it's hard to keep up with all the moving parts because everything is so specific. And sometimes it's I'd rather not vote than vote for the wrong thing. Yeah. But I think that our vote and our voices are so important, especially to the future of Savannah. Absolutely. And maintaining and improving. Something I really like about you is you're all about creating a system that helps others instead of the system that only helps one, which I think is something we're all struggling with right now. Absolutely. It's hard to have this podcast and not start being too or saying too many radical things on my end because I have to be indifferent and, objectively ask you these questions. But
yeah, well, the thing is we all I don't think a lot of the things I'm saying are. I feel let me rephrase that. I think that a lot of things I'm saying are common experiences for most people. You may not agree with my policies, but you're no, I'm struggling. I can't afford anything.
Agreed.
No, I'm tired of money being in politics. I'm tired of my elected officials not representing me.
Oh, I'm tired of people preaching affordability when they're creating the demise or the downfall of a lot of people's financial situation.
Yes. Those are things we all have in common, and you're talking about not being able, sometimes it's hard to be engaged and know what's going on. And that's intentional. like people, I know such people in my work, 'cause I'm obviously very politically engaged and try to be knowledgeable, though sometimes even I'm like, it's hard for me to keep
Yeah,
up,
there's a
just
lot going on. There's lots of secrets too. That's the hard part.
Yes, there is lots of secrets.
Yeah.
But, you know, people be like, well, I don't understand why people don't go vote or why they're not doing this or that. I'm like, some of these people are working 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their head.
Yes.
Like, how can you expect, they don't have the time or capacity to pay attention to what you're doing or pay attention to what is happening.
I agree.
Which is part of why, like, I think, you know, raising wages and making sure people can afford to live with just one job is important, because it's not just about being able to afford things. It's about also having time to spend with your family, to spend on hobbies, and be able to be engaged.
I'm not going to get mad, but isn't this what the American dream was supposed to be about? Wasn't it supposed to be?
It's what's been sold to us. I don't know that it's ever been that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, is that like to be able to like just live and breathe and afford to live. It seems like there's a paywall behind everything that seems healthy for us, or, you know, gets us one step forward in life.
Yeah. Or, you know, we saw during COVID where, you know, a bunch of people started working from home. And then all of a sudden, particularly larger companies are like, well, I can't control you if you're at your house. And so now they're taking that back, even though people are just as productive. People are still getting their jobs done.
Yes.
And so a lot of this is about, there's a bunch of really rich people and they want to be in control of everything. And they want us to, this is going to sound terrible, but kind of work until we die.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it feels that way.
Yeah.
You know, I can't even afford retirement right now. So I'm like, I'm going to be 70.
I'm like, what's retirement?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or I just think like the hustle and the grind, the, you know, go above and beyond at your job because it'll be rewarded. I think a lot of people have gone outside of their job title, done the extra work, and it's just met with nothing. It's met with more demand rather than reward.
Yeah.
And I think we're all tired.
We are all tired.
Girl bosses.
But the message I always tell people, I'm like, it doesn't have to be this way. You know, when Mom Donnie was running for mayor in New York, I saw this guy on TikTok and he said, listen, he's like, all y'all are saying the things he wants to do are unreasonable. He's like, but I want more politicians who want to do unreasonable things.
Agreed.
He's like, because there was a time and place where children not working in factories was considered unreasonable. There was a time when Black people and women being able to vote was considered unreasonable.
Yes.
Having something like Social Security was considered unreasonable. But we demanded for better and we got it.
Yes.
And we said, this isn't unreasonable. This is actually what we need. And so it's not just what can we accomplish today, but what are we striving for beyond that?
I agree. And we live in a world where we have an amazing access to technology and information. I was thinking the other day about like the medical industry, and like as humans, we're the only animals on this earth who can like natural selection used to just be it. Like if your arm gets chopped off, you're done. But like we can do amazing things. And I just think about all the noise that's happening in our world and how we all feel like at a snap, it could just be done. And it's like, imagine where we would be as humans if like we all were happy and fulfilled and had the ability to,
absolutely,
exist in a better world.
Yeah.
My existential crisis, of course. So I feel like we've touched upon a lot of topics. Is there anything else you want to share that we haven't covered? Because I could have you here for like 2 hours.
Well, and I can talk about this stuff all day. So,
yeah.
I think the big thing is, I think the big takeaway is one, if you live in District 165, I would love to have your vote. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to votekendraclark.com. I'm also on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Vote Kendra Clark. So I'm easy to find. And if there's things like, I want to be accessible. So if you're like, hey, you didn't talk about this and I want to know what your thoughts are, feel free to reach out. That's what we need is leaders who are more accessible and willing to talk.
Definitely. Or just to explain what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think people want the real story, which
Absolutely.
It seems like you're all about that.
Yes.
So guys, I really encourage you to check out Kendra. I look her up on TikTok. I'm actually so impressed with all of the content you're pushing out, because like I didn't know things about the city. And then I see your videos and I'm like, wow, I should have known that. Great. So last thing, is there a specific place we have to vote for the election?
Yeah. So early voting's happening right now. That's at the over on Eisenhower, the voting like annex. I know there's the mosquito control out on Dean Forest, and there's in the Civic Center.
Got it. Yes.
But then on election day, you're going to vote in your precinct. So if you're not sure where that is, that's where that go into that My Voter page is very important, because one, it'll tell you whether you're registered, which registration is passed. If you're not registered, you'll have to wait till next time, unfortunately. But it'll tell you where your precinct is. Like I said, that's where you can pull a sample ballot. When you go to vote, you can't have your phone out. But if you print that ballot, you can take paper.
Okay.
So that
good.
way you're not having to remember everything. But if you pull your phone out, they'll get onto you.
Great.
So My Voter page is the best place to get that information. But make sure you vote. It's important. If you don't vote in the primary, then you're just giving in to whatever options you have in the general in November. So,
Yes. If you don't vote, you cannot complain. I'm sorry. You have to do your research and make an effort. So,
Yes.
But Kendra, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad that you could kind of inform us of what's going on and everything that you are about.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. And so you please follow her on TikTok, follow her on social media, and we'll keep up with how the election is. But good luck with everything. I'm so impressed, and I'm grateful you could make time to come and talk to me.
Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. Till next time, guys. See ya.